It's Fingerstyle Thursday. Hello. Today we're going to talk about a few things. One is sweating, it's too warm. The second is our C major scale and also harmonizing our C major scale. That's a big one. The other thing that might cause you some drama, it's lots of fun though, is sliding double stops. And double stops come back to harmonizing our major scale. I've talked about double stops quite a lot in Fingerstyle Thursdays before. A double stop is basically just two notes. That's all. Chords are traditionally three or more. So if we get two, it's sort of a note that can be harmonized, usually either with a third, a fourth, or a fifth. And those are called double stops. Used loads and loads and loads and loads in guitar and ukulele music. So getting used to them and sort of learning how they're put together is a really good thing. Let's go talk about it right now. So in last week's Fingerstyle Thursday, I talked all about sort of a pedalled F note. And that was no matter what, there was basically an underlying F that went throughout the piece, which means I was basically sort of just dancing around an F major scale. Now today we're sort of doing the same thing, but in C this time, okay? So this time it's just C. And we're relying on our C major scale. If you don't know where your C major scale lives, if we talk about it on the top string, because it's nicer for the melody, 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret, 10th fret. You can go to 12, but I advise you go to 0 instead, same note. Then 2, and then 3. That's our C major scale, all across the first string. The reason we want to put it there is because when we're crafting melodies, often it needs to be the highest note of the piece. So that's the highest string we have. Okay, so we're in 3/4 for this piece. So basically that means every bar we count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But actually the underlying rhythm in this piece really is 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and. It's important in 3/4 that we always sort of accent or make the 1 the sort of the biggest note. You have to make that 1 feel really important, okay? You do that. So yeah, rhythm 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and 1. So that's pretty much what our right hand is doing. And the pattern that we're going to do is we're going to pinch 2 and 4, and that'll be our 1. And then our 2 and 3 and is 3, 2, 1, 4, which obviously I'm going thumb, index, middle, thumb. Pinch, and then 3, 2, 1, 4. Pinch, 3, 2, 1, 4. 1, 2, and 3, and. So you'd like an exercise to get used to that quite quickly and also to test your C major scale? Excellent idea. That's really clever. Well done you. Remember I told you where your C major scale is? So if we play this right hand pattern, so for example if I play it on my first note, C major scale, and every time I play a bar, I'm going to try and move to a different note of the scale. So if you're testing out your scale, if you're not used to it, you can do it in order. And just go up your scale like that. But if you're feeling quite adventurous, then you can just basically play any note of the scale in any order. Just try and do it every bar. And you might come up with something really, really, really lovely. So really for the piece, I've picked 7, 2, 3, 5, 7, 2, open, and then open. that's basically the order that I picked this in, because that's just what my ears like. Now, to make it a little bit more special, I've snuck some hammer-ons in there. So basically, instead of going straight to the 7, I've made sure to start on the note before in the scale, which is the 5th fret. So I'm going to pinch 2 and 4, and then hammer. These are 8th notes, so you're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and that hammer-on sort of leads you into your chord, 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now we'll do this every 2 bars. So we have the hammer, then down to the 2nd fret, and then we're going to hammer from 2 to 3 for the next bar. So that'll sound 1 and 2 and 3 and I'm using my index to my middle finger for that hammer-on. And then finally I'm going to the 5. Now it's up to you which finger, but I would try, if you're moving, that you might as well use your index finger. Because then when you come to the hammer-on, you can fall straight into it. It might feel natural to lead up with the middle finger, but then you have to quickly switch over. So I'd try from there and go back to your index finger. Okay, so that was 5-7 hammer-on, 1 and 2 and 3 and. Then down to the 2nd fret, 1, 2 and 3 and. Then hammer, 1 and 2 and 3 and then 5, 1, 2 and 3 and. Now when I say 1, I am saying basically 1 and 2 and 3 and. So make sure you're leaving that gap of and after the 1 every time. So once we've played that first line, we're going to go back to our 5-7 hammer-on, 1 and 2 and 3 and. Back to 2, 1, 2 and 3 and. Then we're going to go nicely to open here, 1, 2 and 3 and then for the last bar we're just going to pinch 2 and 4, and basically in our brains we go 1 and 2 and 3 and. So we go 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. On the sheet there is then a repeat marker, so that means we go back to the very first line and you basically play the first 2 lines again. So that's your 5-7, 2, 2-3, 5, 5-7, 2, 0, 0. Right, so let's talk about these double stops and basically how to build them. So today we're harmonizing in thirds, and I'll talk about that in a second. But basically, my train of thought is I'm going to go basically up my scale. So I'm going to start from the 2nd, 3, 5, 7. Now, what can I do to basically add more texture and layers to that? I'm going to harmonize. Now, harmonies are created from other notes in your scale. Your C major scale is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That is your C major scale. So, in order to harmonize in thirds, what we have to do is you take a note, for example, I take a B, and then you have to go back 2 notes in the scale. So, B, A, G. So I have a G on the 3rd fret on the 2nd string. So that's a B and that's a G. So I took a note, I then ignored the previous note, the A, and then went back another note, G. So I'm sort of working backwards in my scale. And this is because I've started high and I'm working low. If you start low, so for example, if I started on the G, I could do this in the opposite fashion as well. I could do G, not A, and B. But you could also do G, not F, E. So there's different ways of playing your harmonies, okay? But for this one, we're starting with a high note and then we're going down a third to add the harmony. So if I go to a C next, basically again in my major scale, C, the note before that was B, missed that out, A. So my A is on the 5th fret. Now I'd still play this with your index and your middle finger, the same as these ones, because we're gonna do some sliding. Now, double stop slides are really, really, really tasty. They sound beautiful, but there's a weird motion between it, because if we look at sliding from this double stop, the B and the G, to the C and the A, basically, your index finger slides up 1 fret, 2 to 3. Your middle finger slides up 2 frets, 3 to 5. So basically, what I advise is getting really used to, first of all, not even thinking about sliding, just moving between those. You need those, basically 2 positions to be solid. Either I've got a 1 fret gap between the notes, or I've got a 2 fret gap between the notes. When it comes to thirds, those are your only 2 options. So it's either 1 fret or a 2 fret gap between them. So sit there and strum, going between those, lots and lots and lots of please. Okay, so then after lots and lots and lots of moving, you're nice and confident between those 2. All you're going to do is, and basically in this little piece I'm strumming all strings, sorry, when I play my thirds. You can just pick them as well if you want, but for this piece I'm strumming them all. So I'm going to strum, and then you do your best to slide up, okay? Now, that's difficult, so it might take a while. You might find that your index finger goes, and your middle finger might lose a bit of pressure by the time it's got up to those 2 frets. Don't worry about it, okay? The more you do it, it will come. Basically, practicing instruments is all about repetition, okay? So don't be put off straight away. I promise you, just keep it and do it a bit every single day, and you will get a really, really, really tidy slide. So, in our double stops part, we're actually using the same idea and the same rhythm as the previous part. So it's still this 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and 1. But instead of hammer-ons, I'm using slides in some bars. So for example, in this first one, I've got this harmonized third, B and a G, and then we go to C and A. And like I said, I'm just using index and middle for these. So I'm going to strum these, and we go 1 and then we'll still use the same picking pattern, 2 and 3 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and, like that. So next, we need to take, basically, I was going to the 5th fret. So the harmony for that is another, basically a 2 fret jump like that. There we go. So I'm going to strum that 1, 2, and 3 and. If you're wondering about the harmony on that, by the way, this note here, 5th fret, 1st string, that's a D. So if I go back 2 again, D, not C, B. And that's what the 7th fret 2nd string is, it's a B. So 1, 2, and 3 and, there we go. Next, I was going up to the 7th fret, and that is an E. So again, I'd go E, not D, C. C is on the 8th fret. There we go. So this is a 1 fret companion again. And again, we're going to strum that 1, 2, and 3 and. So we've gone 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and then we're going to jump all the way up to 10 and 12. There we go. 1, 2, and 3 and. So for our next line, we're going to start with the D and the B again. And we're going to basically, because we've done 4 bars, we're going to have another slide again. So we're going to slide this D and B here to this C and E and C here. So this is kind of like the opposite motion that we did earlier. Before, the index finger went up 1 fret and the middle finger went up 2 frets. But this time, the index is going up 2 frets and the middle's going up 1. Again, sit there, strum, strum, strum. You just want to make sure those fingers are really confident. By the way, jump is made of all of these, okay? It is literally just a harmonized scale. Everybody uses them, they're fantastic, and it's why we love double stops. Sorry, we're going to a little slide anyway. So we had 5 to 7 to 7 to 8, 1 E, not 1 E, 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and. Heat's killing me, man, I'm dying. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Then we're going to move down to our 5 and 7 again. 1, 2 and 3 and then we're going to go down to 3 and 5. 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3. So we're not going to play the and with the thumb, we're just going to go 1, 2 and 3. So that second line, we had our 5, 7 to 7, 8. 1 and 2 and 3 and 5 and 7. 1, 2 and 3 and 3 and 5. 1, 2 and 3 and then 1, 2 and 3. Right, All of this repeats. So we go back to our 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and all the way up 10, 12. We can do our slide again. And on the last 3 and 5, we're just going to strum them and hold that for 1 and 2 and 3 and. So basically we have the little slide, 5 and 7, 3 and 5, strum, just strum. Then we go back to our opening riff with the hammer-ons. 2, hammered 3, 5, then 5, 7, 2, and we're just going to finish on that pinched open there. If you like, you can obviously repeat it and keep going as much to your heart's content, but you might want to break there. I want to break, I'm sweating. Right, cool. I hope you enjoyed that. As usual, all the sheets are available on Patreon every single week. If you like this lesson, please consider liking and subscribing. I do this every single Thursday and will do until I'm murdered or chased out of the country. See you next week.